You're listening to The Real Wealth Show with Kathy Fettke, the real estate investor's resource.
Some people get stuck in analysis paralysis, meaning that no matter how much they study or how much due diligence they do, they just can't take the plunge, while others just jump right in. Our guest today could not wait to get started in real estate, so he made his first acquisition while still in high school. I'm Kathy Fettke, and welcome to The Real Wealth Show. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that I'll be giving my 2022 housing forecast this Thursday live at Real Wealth Network. You can join that by going to realwealthshow.com, click on the join button, and you'll get access to this upcoming webinar and, of course, all the past ones. I'll be co-hosting that webinar with Logan Mohtashami of Housing Wire. And if you got the chance to hear him when I interviewed him here on The Real Wealth Show, you will not want to miss this webinar. So again, go sign up at realwealthshow.com. Kyle Nott wasted no time. He attended what he calls the Windshield University to educate himself about real estate. And by that, he means the time he spent driving from one construction job site to the next, listening to podcasts and learning from other investors. And here he is now educating others on my podcast. He shares the ups and downs of his journey in this interview, which is both inspirational and educational. So Kyle, welcome.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to almost feel like we're talking in person,
Right?
Gotta love Zoom.
That's right.
All right. So you have a full story. I think you have a lot that you can share with our audience about the highs and the lows of real estate and the lessons learned and how in the end it does seem to work out if you stick with it. So let's start with who you are. What's your career besides real estate?
So my career, I've been in the construction field, heavy highway bridge construction. Currently working on a data center for one of the big tech companies. So my full-time job has been construction for a while, but always wanted to supplement that with buying some properties and have someone else pay them off while making a little cash flow on top of that has always just spoken to me. So that's kind of what drew me to the real estate investing.
Oh, that's great. All right. So first of all, it sounds like you could be an insider for us at Real Wealth to tell us where the new freeways are coming in, because that's usually good for real estate on the other side of that freeway.
Yeah, they are. I don't have a whole lot of information on that. We do a lot of rehab to existing freeways that are already there. Every once in a while, we'll get a big one coming through, but after that, the word's already out. So okay. I don't really have any proprietary information to that.
Well, if you do, you know who to call.
You got it.
All right. So you're doing construction. Boy, is that our construction workers in demand today. I hope you're getting paid a lot for it. So what had you were thinking about real estate? How did you choose which asset class in real estate when you started?
Actually, I was in high school when everything kind of first came to me. Like, this really makes sense. I knew some people that were a couple years older than me that had already graduated. One bought a duplex, was living in the bottom, renting the top out, and had zero housing costs. Like, wow, that really makes sense. So that's kind of how I started thinking about it. Got into my first one was I owned a house. I moved out west, rented my own house out, and learned a lot of lessons by doing it that way. I was a couple
Tell me
thousand
more.
miles
Yeah.
away.
What'd you learn?
I learned you really have to pay attention to this asset. I kind of left it to my dad to have him manage everything for me. When I came back, and not that he did anything wrong, but when they finally moved out, I went through and saw that the trash was piled up everywhere and there was mold all over all of the windows and the bathroom and everything else. So had to.
You bring up such a great point. So often we think that we should lean on family for business decisions, and maybe that's not the best choice unless your family is really, really good at property management, right? What would you have done differently with what you know today?
With what I know now, I would have just called a property manager and had them vet the tenant and go through everything Yes, you pay a little bit for it, but it is so much easier. Life is so much easier to let them. They're the professionals. They know what they're doing, and let them do their job.
Let them do their thing. This actually happened in my own family recently with some of our relatives who bought a property near a family member and asked the family member to handle everything. And of course, the family member wanted to be nice, and it ended up being a lot of work for them. And they didn't know how to screen people, and they didn't know how to do repairs. And it's same thing. It just didn't go well, and that can really be hard on the relationship, right? It's like, why did were they trying to just save the 8% of rent? Like why do that? Why not just go to the professionals? It's a big lesson.
Oh yeah, and I mean, my dad did everything right. It was when they left, I realized how bad of shape it was in. And we always got along great, no hard feelings anywhere in
Oh,
between, but
that's
we didn't,
great.
neither one of us even knew. So
Yeah,
knowing now that it would have been much more seamless had I gone that route. So
perfect. Okay, so then what? So that was your primary, or just it was a
that
primary
was
that?
my first house that I bought,
Mhm.
primary residence. Then I left, moved out west, came back. I'm from the northern Illinois area, about 2 hours west of Chicago. Um, so came back, and it turns out that we I met who was my wife. We were living together, looking. She was pregnant with our first, and we're looking for something a little bit larger. We're looking for our own home. That's about the time this all happened. So we kind of put the brakes on that. But it worked out to our advantage that we completely gutted that house, added a second story, and we ended up moving into it.
Oh wow.
It worked
Okay.
out.
Oh, so it worked out.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, great. And then, so lessons learned of owning property remotely, right? There's lots of lessons there. It seems so easy. What do I need a property manager for? But yeah, there's more to it. So then, what made you decide after that not so positive experience to do it again?
So after that, I always kind of had the itch, and I don't know that I really realized that I was real estate investing at that point. I knew I owned a
Mhm.
home. The company I was working for kind of shipped me out west, and then I left and went to work for a different company, out in the Lake Tahoe area. So at that point, and they were making the payments every month on the first. So I was like, all right, well, this is just rolling right along. So after we got through all that, I saw some fourplexes in a neighboring city came up. It just really grabbed my eye. There was a whole cul-de-sac owned by one investor. I think there was about 10 fourplexes on this cul-de-sac. He owned all but two of them, and the whole everything was for sale. I went to my banker and was like, "What do I do to buy all these?"
Yeah.
And kind of walked me through the what needed to happen, and then the down payment part of the equation came up. So I realized I couldn't take them all down, but kind of came up and bought four of them. So it was everything I had could scrape by, cashing in on some Roth 401ks where I could pull um, my contributions out and everything I had to get started with those four fourplexes, and then
That was in
I was off to the
Illinois.
races. I'm sorry,
In Illinois.
in Illinois, yes, in Rockford, Illinois area. Yep.
Okay. So then in congratulations on making that happen, and talking to a lender is so important. That's like the first step everyone should do is just go talk to a lender, find out what you can qualify for, and if you can't qualify, what you need to do to get there. And if you need more down payment, talk to people who might want to lend that to you to get you going. So now you were able to close on, what'd you say, four fourplexes?
I got four
Yeah.
fourplexes. So my real first introduction, if you will, to real estate investing was I was all in with 16 units, and plus
Yeah.
we then had my wife's house that we rented out to. So at that point, I think we had 17 altogether, and that was when my true education began.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what did you learn with that acquisition?
So with that one, I knew that it was about an hour away from where I lived.
Hmm.
That property management, I wasn't even going to try to do it. So
Hmm.
I I Googled, and the first property manager came up. All right, let's do this. And we're off to the races. And I thought everything was fine. Learned pretty quick that all property managers are not created equal.
Indeed. And how long ago was this?
November of 2014 is
Okay.
when, so it's
Not that long
coming
ago.
up. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say they're not all the same, what was different about this one? What was not working?
So my first experience, they had they collected 10% of the rents, but they also collected 10% on all of their maintenance, and
Okay.
so which is nice if they got in-house maintenance people, if done right, can save you some money.
Sure.
But I every month on my reports, I would get, it's just charge after charge after charge after charge, and I'm going through and, well, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
And it should have been making a lot of money. Instead, I was paying a lot in maintenance. I'm like, okay, well, a month or two into it, I knew there was some deferred maintenance. It just kept going and going, and it came to the point where every month I would have to go through my statements with a microscope, and then I would always email back with 10 or 11 questions about what are these charges, and every time they would come back, well, we're sorry, those were mistakes, we shouldn't have charged you for that.
Oh my gosh, what?
Yes.
Oh, so huge lesson. Look at your statement and ask questions. Just a lot of people never even bother to look at it, or they don't understand it. Did you have any trouble? I mean, it sounds like you did have trouble understanding it. So you called and asked for explanation, and the explanation said it was wrong. That's
Yes,
crazy. Wow.
absolutely. When I first looked at them, I like, okay, I guess this is all legit. When I started to question them, it was amazing how many mistakes there were, but none were ever in my favor. It was always the other way
Right.
around.
Good for you catching that.
Yep.
So then what? Did you stick with them or?
I stuck with them for a little while, but nothing changed. And finally, I said, this is enough. It almost bankrupted me.
Oh,
So got out from them. Got with a much better property manager, and it's amazing. I know you guys vet all your property management, and it's so when I do all this, that my first questions are to the property manager. I don't really care too much about the property. I want to know who the property managers are, and
yeah.
after been through a bad situation like that, you really learn the questions to ask and to get a good feel for the property management team.
Well, we've vetted property management companies that were good at first and then turned bad. So it is something that you have to stay on top of all the time, because people change within a company, right? You might have had a really, really great property manager. That person leaves, a new one comes in, and they're not as good. So paying attention is vital. This is not a passive income investment. Syndications are, and we'll talk about that more later. But when you own property, even with property management, you do need to be actively involved, at least in reviewing what's happening, even if it's just once a month. It's not a lot of time, but at least 1 or 2 hours a month to review what's actually happening. So what would you say are the questions that you would ask now, again, knowing what you know today?
Just to get a good feeling for who will be managing your property. If it's a big property management company, that's fine. There's nothing, I've got nothing against that, but I want to know whose cell phone do I call if I have any. I want a relationship with a certain person or a couple of people.
Yep.
And once I know that you two are on my team, or whoever it is, and I don't care if it's the secretary answering the phone. I want the same contact, and I kind of want to. I kind of became a thorn in their side to a reasonable, just a reasonable way of doing it. You have to know what you're doing, or they know that I'm looking at every statement. They know that they're not going to be able to pull one over on me.
Yeah.
So at first I'm probably over the top. They're kind of like, oh geez, it's one of these guys. But after a little while, now I hardly talk to anyone anymore.
That's great.
The statements all look good. If there's any questions, I've got the email, I've got the cell phone, I can text, and I know who to talk to, and I get an answer pretty quick.
So whose throat to choke is basically what we say in our business. There's always going to be someone who's bottom line for whatever the task is. Because otherwise it's really easy to say, oh, I thought so-and-so was going to do it. Or, so whose throat to choke. That's what you got to know, and that sounds pretty harsh, but that so you want to know who you're dealing with and have their cell phone and be able to be in touch with them and have a relationship. Maybe send some Christmas presents and things
That's
to
right.
keep that relationship great. What other questions would you ask if you were vetting a new property management company?
Just how the maintenance is handled. I probably have about a half dozen property managers right now. Each one of them are a little bit different, um, and I kind of like it because you see what you like, what you don't, um, and but I want to know how is maintenance handled. Some will charge a 10% upcharge on all of their maintenance, where others are, no, I would never do that. That's part of my 10% rental fee, and that's how we get paid is taking care of your property. Different areas of the country, things are a little different, but yeah, that was the biggest one that got me. What are your limits? A lot of times, anything 250 dollars or below, they just go ahead and fix. If a tenant calls in the middle of the night with the toilet issues, that everyone's always worried about, fix it.
Yeah.
But if it's over a certain threshold, then yes, they've got to get a hold of me. I've got a pretty good relationship with everyone that I want to take care of all of our properties. I want to provide a good housing to a good tenant. And, if we expect tenants to pay on the first, they should expect us to take care of their place. So if they've got some issues, I want to get it taken care of
Right away.
quickly and promptly and things like that.
So if it does come in over that $250 threshold, would you want to see several bids or just kind of understand more what needs to be done?
Yeah. So one for instance, we had some termite damage on one of my properties in Alabama. For that one, it was a considerable dollar amount. So if it's $260, just go fix it. That doesn't matter. But if it's getting into the thousands, then yeah, let's look at multiple options and see where we need to go to get this rectified and
Mhm.
do it right once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like to do, even on my own, is just get a few bids to make sure that the property manager is really looking at all options because, that's one of the services that Real Wealth gives is we've had so much experience. Our investment counselors have seen so many issues come up that they maybe have an idea of how it could be handled differently and maybe a little bit less expensively. But at the same time, sometimes stuff needs to get fixed. I mean, our Cleveland property we bought for I don't know $45,000, put about 15,000 into it, and it stayed rented for 5 years. It was the easiest, most lucrative property, and then all of a sudden it started to have I think you have the same story. There was some issue with the plumbing from the house to the street. We had to redo that. It ended up costing thousands of dollars. So all that great cash flow sort of was like, oh well, but at least the value doubled. So it all worked out in the end. But sometimes you do have the big repair stuff, and I think that has happened to you. I think in your Alabama properties, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. That one, it was not too long after we bought it that, the drain, it was draining very slow. After some exploration, there was roots growing through the drain from the house to the street. The estimates I got were, I think, around $3,000. But that was the power of Real Wealth Network. I called or emailed Ben and was like, hey, I think they probably knew about this as an issue before I bought it. What do you think? And Ben was absolutely not. We're gonna go back on the people we bought it from, and they took care of it. So that's um, one of my. I put a big post out on Bigger Pockets about my whole experience with Real Wealth Network. It's kind of something that I wish I had when I got into it. So I put that out there. The just my whole experience with how things went, and
Thank you.
totally recommend Real Wealth Network. I mean, you guys had my back, and it was nice as I was getting into these investments that were a 10-hour drive away, to know that I've got someone's got my back. So it was a great way to start that out.
Oh, that's great. So, how did you find us?
Um, so in my travels, I was doing, heavy highway construction. Well, they never really do that in your backyard. So it's always, I would drive anywhere from an hour to probably 3 or 4 a day. When I wasn't on the phone, directing everything I had to do through work, I always had a podcast going instead of just
Oh,
listening to the radio and kind of mindlessly driving. I always had a podcast. So anything real estate involved, I listen to it, and stumbled across yours multiple years back, and yeah, I've been listening ever since. Appreciate everything that you and the Real Wealth Network, amongst others, are putting out there for that Windshield University, I call it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, that's great to know. Really using those travel hours as a university on wheels. That's what Rich always would call it.
Yep.
Oh, that's okay. That's wonderful to know. So yeah, you ended up buying a couple of properties in Alabama. Now, that was with a provider that we don't use anymore, and they were older homes, and older homes, even when rehabbed, can have issues. So, well, I mean, any home can have an issue, right? But obviously, if you're going to buy an older car, you're probably going to have more issues than if you buy a new car.
Mhm.
Same with real estate. So I'm really happy to hear. Obviously, a seller isn't on the hook forever, right? But in the beginning, anytime you buy a property, that seller is supposed to tell you everything they know so that you can really make a wise decision. And when you end up closing on the property and something comes up that's like, hey, come on, they knew about this, they didn't tell me, then they kind of are on the hook, right? So
Mhm.
I'm so glad that that they stepped up and took care of that.
Yeah, they totally did. Um, Great job with everything. Kind of standing behind their product, and brought it to their attention. And had I just bought these on my own, from someone's own property, had they known about it or not, without a legal proceeding and all those kinds of issues, for a $3,000 um, fix, it probably wouldn't have been worth the legal fight to go back and battle that. I probably would have just been stuck with it myself. So yeah, very nice to work with people like that stand by what they've got.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, Rich and I bought a house, in the Malibu area, one that we could afford, and one that we could afford was practically falling down. But there were things that needed fixing that we actually didn't know about, and there was always a question, did the sellers know about it or not? We didn't take the time to sue either, but we certainly could have. So it's just important to know that, make sure if you're selling a house that you disclose everything. When we sold a condo, I wrote 2 pages of things I knew about it that were wrong. We still sold it, but that way they could never come back and say I didn't tell them, right?
Right. And it's just the right thing to do too. If you're on that,
Yeah,
if you're on that end of the deal, it makes you sleep a little bit better at night. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. So I'm curious, do you still have those fourplexes? And if so, how are they doing?
they are doing great. Actually, still have them. They're performing awesome. And actually going through, I bought those for 175,000 a piece. Just had them recently appraised at 320 a piece. So
Nice.
I'm doing a little bit of a cash out refi to get a little more dry powder and keep on going, keep on finding something else, and keep the cash flow coming.
That's amazing. And to get that kind of appreciation in a sort of non-appreciating area, typically, right? That area hasn't been known for high appreciation.
Not at all. It's been pretty flat. That's why I was just never invested for appreciation, always cash flow.
Yeah.
If I ever lost my job or something happened to me where I couldn't go to work, I always, wanted some sort of a different stream of income. That was my only thought was ever cash flow. And now I know that there's like what 5 different ways to um, take care or capitalize off of real estate investing. And with that appreciation, it's been crazy in this market. The rates are low. The way I see it, inflation is high, so I'm gonna cash out and keep on buying assets.
That's so great. You said there's 5 ways to make money. What are those ways?
So you've got your appreciation. You got the tenants paying down your your mortgage payment, basically. You've got it's a hedge against inflation. You've got all of the phantom deductions. I guess I call them phantom. You got all the deductions, the tax deductions, that everything is great for you right there.
Yeah.
Um, which one am I missing? It's 4, right? I know there's another one out there
Rental
somewhere.
income, loan pay down, tax benefits, appreciation, and there is another one. I
Inflation, right?
maybe.
Yeah, I know there's 5.
There's all kinds. Yeah.
That's
Lots of
right.
lots of good reasons to invest.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at doing a refi and buying more. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So I'm gonna close on those here in the upcoming, but before the end of the year, and yeah, looking to redeploy. I've got a couple of private placements that I'm kind of involved with.
Hmm.
The bait stringer, involved with that one with you guys. That
Yeah.
one's kind of coming around and getting ready to
Yeah.
start paying back some preferred returns. So looking forward to that, and I think
It
we've
always
got all of our money.
gives me a lot of relief when you get your cash back and now it's just the
Right.
profits coming. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I'm glad to hear that. That was an interesting project to invest in Reno when it was just kind of an emerging market. We got the land for really cheap, and then we had a horrible winter and we got delayed on the project. And then the Fed raised rates and things really slowed down for new home builders, and we were kind of on the high end. So that was a little bit of a scary time. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit. We didn't know what was going to happen, and then bam, everybody wanted what we were selling. But it's been a journey. I'm just happy to say that the way that we structured it, that the longer it took, the more issues we ran into. The investors make more money. They get their preferred return, and unfortunately for me and the developer, we don't. It's kind of basically comes out of a profit, but it's going to be good for you. It's going to be real good for you, not so good for me.
I'm sorry, yeah, it didn't work out as well for you, but yeah, so far great investment for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yep.
great. So you might do more syndications.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of, a little bit of obviously when you've got your own, your own properties, it's a little more hands-on. Even if you do have a property manager, and try to be hands-off. The syndications are, to me, truly passive. Kind of just
Mhm.
write a check and they start paying you back with preferred returns. So yeah, it's a great way to diversify and another source of cash flow.
So why do you think that the fourplexes that you bought them for cash flow? Definitely an area that wasn't known for appreciation at all, at all. No, nobody would have bought there with that in mind. What do you think happened that it suddenly became an appreciating area?
Even when I bought those back in 2014, there really were no comps on fourplexes. So
Mm.
people were kind of holding on to them and holding them for the long haul. These kind of came up. I got them. They appraised for what I got them at, which has kind of been my experience. But there's just the way I think it is. The I don't know if it's I think ever since '08 happened, the crash and everything, there's the supply I don't think is there. So
Mhm.
when the supply is not there, the demand goes up. Um, the building just dried up. I was in the heavy highway, and all of the places we would get concrete from were busy, pouring basement foundations. And for residential, I remember a couple years where they didn't pour any basements. So it went from steady to crazy in '06, '07, and then '08 when everything it just completely stopped. So the supply, I don't think the supply is there, and so now you've got a demand coming on, and people just I think they don't want to own, they don't want to be locked down to something for 30 years. They like to rent, and I've had a couple people that have been with me for probably 4 years, but they will not sign a 1 year lease because they want that freedom of the month to month to pick up and go whenever they want. So they pay a little bit of a premium for it, and like, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, that's wild. All
Yeah.
right. Well, any final tips for anyone else out there who's listening to the show and in the university on wheels?
Yeah, University on Wheels. If you've got that time, where you're by yourself, yeah, use that to your advantage. Whatever you're interested in, I dug into real estate, but whatever investing, or if you're into art, or you can find a podcast for anything. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. And I was it was a big leap when I finally decided to go in and do this. I talk to people all the time. It was by far the best financial decision I've ever made, was to get into this. And as we kind of talked about it, it wasn't all perfect from the get go, but you don't know what you don't know, until you start. And I would say jump in and start. Even if it's a small single family somewhere, in one of the markets you guys have, you'll jump in, you'll get to know the game, and you can keep growing from there. Sky's the limit.
That's right. Great advice. Thank you so much. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, Rich listens to dozens of books per year because he just always has one. And anytime he's driving, and even if it's just to the store, he's listening to a book. And it's hard to sit down and read a book these days, right? But you can listen to one. And same with podcasts. There's so much to learn from other people's experience, so you don't have to learn the hard way like some of us have. All right. Oh, Kyle, it's been really a pleasure to have you here on the Real Well Show. I'm sure you've inspired lots of our listeners.
I hope so. Thank you for having me, Kathy. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining me here on The Real Well Show. I want to let you know that I'm giving my 2022 housing forecast this Thursday if you want to get my take on where real estate is headed this year. Considering we know rate hikes are on the way and prices are at new all-time highs. So just visit realwealthshow.com. You can join for free, and then you'll get access to this upcoming webinar this Thursday, plus recordings of all the past ones. And please remember to hit that subscribe button and leave a review. There's been so many nice ones. I really appreciate it. I'm Kathy Fettke, wishing you a very happy new year.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to realwealthshow.com.